All right, today we're going to dive into a new theory of aging that really shakes things up. It basically questions the entire foundation of modern medicine and suggests that, everything we think we know about getting older, it just might be wrong.
So let's just start with a huge paradox. We live in this incredible age of medical marvels, right? We've got MRIs, robotic surgery, all these life-saving drugs. And yet chronic illnesses, things like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, they're more widespread than ever. It doesn't quite add up. So what is going on here?
And that leads us right into this fundamental paradox in modern medicine. It really feels like we're winning a lot of the small battles, but we're somehow losing the bigger war for our long-term health. Let's break down where medicine really shines and where it's kind of falling flat.
Look, when it comes to the acute stuff, you break a bone, you get a nasty bacterial infection. Modern medicine is an absolute hero. It patches us up brilliantly. But for those slow-burning, chronic diseases that really define modern life, their report card is, well, it's not good. We are fantastic at emergency repairs, but we've pretty much failed at preventing or finding real cures for these long-term illnesses.
And the result of all this? It's a tidal wave of aging and impaired adults. This isn't just a health crisis, you guys. It's an economic and political disaster in the making that our current system seems totally unprepared for.
Okay, so what is the root cause of this massive failure? Well, the theory we're digging into today argues it's because we've been looking at the human body all wrong. We've been treating this incredibly complex, evolved organism like it's just a simple machine.
You see, the old story, the one that's dominated medicine for a century, is what you'd call reductionist. It sees the body as a collection of parts. If something breaks, you just fix or replace that part. Simple as that. But there's a new story emerging from evolutionary biology. It sees the body as more of a patched-together contraption, something that's been shaped over millions of years by natural selection. And in this new view, health isn't about fixing broken parts. It's about aligning our modern lives with the environment our bodies were actually built for.
And this quote from Dr. Michael R. Rose just nails it. Our bodies aren't just these passive vessels or simple chemistry sets. They are living, breathing records of a super deep evolutionary history. And that history might just hold the key to our health.
And get this, our history isn't some straight line. We've gone through at least 3 huge dietary shifts. We went from being gatherers, eating things like cooked tubers, to becoming super effective hunters, adapted to lots of meat and fat. And then, really recently in the grand scheme of things, some of us adapted to grains and milk. The big takeaway here is that there's no single ancestral diet. Our bodies are actually adapted to a sequence of different environments.
Okay, now we're getting to the most radical, maybe the most important idea in this whole explainer. This is the part that turns our entire understanding of aging completely on its head. So, buckle up.
We're all taught to think of aging like an old car that just rusts away. This inevitable, universal process of damage building up from things like free radicals. But what if that entire metaphor, that whole way of thinking, is just fundamentally wrong? This evolutionary theory completely redefines aging. It's not about damage. It's about a failure of adaptation. Think of it this way. Natural selection works really, really hard to keep us healthy and strong through our reproductive years. But after that, well, its influence just starts to fade. It's not that we're programmed to fall apart. It's more like nature just stops writing the genetic instructions we need to maintain ourselves perfectly at older ages.
This gives us a much more powerful metaphor. The problem isn't just that the car's parts are wearing out. The real problem is that the driver, our genetic programming, is kind of falling asleep at the wheel. Why? Because the instruction manual for later life has blank pages. Or maybe they're just garbled and unreadable.
And here is the truly mind-blowing part. These forces of natural selection, the very pressure that causes aging in the first place, they don't just keep falling and falling until we're dust. Nope. They eventually hit zero, and then they plateau. They just stop declining.
So, and this is the crucial point, if that detuning process stops because the forces causing it have stopped, then aging itself can stop. This opens up the incredible possibility of a late life phase where our health actually stabilizes instead of just continuing to decline.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. We actually see it in the real world. Take the sea anemone, for example. It reproduces by literally splitting in two. There's no parent and child, just 2 identical organisms. Because of this, the forces of natural selection never get weaker with age. And the result? They don't age. Period. At all.
So,
If aging isn't this inevitable freight train coming for all of us, and if it can theoretically be stopped, what does that mean for you and me, right now? How can we apply this revolutionary science to extend our own period of healthy life, our health span?
Well, the proposed path forward has 4 basic steps. First, we have to reframe how we even think about aging, seeing it not as inevitable decay, but as that failure of adaptation. Second, we align our lifestyles with our own evolutionary past. The third and fourth steps are really for medicine and research, using data to sustain health span and developing new fields like healthomics. But for now, let's focus on step 2, because that's the one we can all start acting on today.
So what does aligning our lifestyle actually mean in practice? Well, it starts by just recognizing a simple fact. Our bodies have had basically zero time to adapt to industrial foods and being inactive all the time. The theory suggests a more personalized approach. If your recent ancestors were farmers, organic agricultural foods might be a great fit, especially when you're younger. But for many of us, and particularly as we get older, the best path is likely to emulate a pre-agricultural hunter-gatherer diet. The big takeaway is this: your ideal lifestyle might literally be written in your evolutionary history. And that brings us to our final thought. This new science of aging suggests that the answer to a longer, healthier life isn't necessarily some futuristic drug or a high-tech procedure. The answer might actually be buried deep in our own ancient past. So the real question is, if our health is an echo of our past, are we willing to listen?